welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is a best-selling author and, of course, transforming path through the power of words. Discover the story behind Pathway by, coaching through writing. No other than Miss Venchele Saint Dic.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Welcome, Miss Venchele. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
No, I think you hit everything on target. You talked about my business, Pathway Coach Writing. So today I really am looking forward to talking a little bit more about how I built this business and what it really inspired me being a writing coach.
Well, Miss Venchele Saint Dic, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So today, as you said, let's talk about the pathway success case studies in effect writing coaching. So tell us, based on your case studies, what is the single most important factor that separates effective writing coaching from simply editing someone's work?
I think that it's really about really making sure that you understand your own impact of you being a writing coach, because for example there are like surveys like of newsroom writing coaches that have showed that one-on-one coaching is like the most effective method for improving writing quality, because it raises consciousness and really creates dialogue around excellence in writing. And I think like the way that you can separate yourself is really keeping up with the literature, on how writing coaches are continuing to find transformative ways, right? To be more effective. And so even with there's some case studies in education that I have read, for the past year that show that writing coaches really help teachers and students engage in authentic audience aware writing, which is really much more aligned with like real world purposes. And also in those cases you're getting real time feedback. It's not something where you are waiting for a week or for a month to get you getting real time feedback when you have a writing coach. And so I think in short, the way to make yourself marketable is making sure that you're engaging in coaching that creates a culture of writing improvement, not just building on a set of skills.
How do you first diagnose a writer's unique challenges? Is it more about their process, their mindset, or their technical skills?
Um, I think that this is where evidence gets really exciting. For me, I really love to use like a framework. Like for example, like I mostly focus on positive psychology research. And I think for me, like I focus initially on helping writers like challenge unhelpful beliefs, like, that they need hours of inspiration before they can write, which is not necessarily true because, again, on a given day, whether you're a parent or not, whether you have children and other obligations, to find an hour in a given day can sometimes be tough. So again, I think it's important for me to remind my clients that small regular writing sessions, like either 30 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, or 10 minutes a day, can really lead to significantly, higher publication output. And I think also solution focused coaching is, also plays a big role, because with my clients, I don't dwell on problems. I really try to get them in the space of understanding their why, understanding the outcome that they want to achieve, and working backwards in order to streamline and to focus their writing. And I really ask a series of questions during our sessions, to help them recall past successes. I mean, obviously, we do go through the feedback that I provide to them on their writing, but I really focus on making sure that they imagine a world where their problems are gone and really and really focus on positive emotions. And I think that it has helped them boost self-efficacy, which is really critical, for sustained um, writing productivity.
Pathways implying there's no single route. Can you contrast two different coaching pathways you have taken with writers who had opposite problems?
um I think that it depends on um it depends on the need. It depends on also the skill level of the writer. And so for me, the strategies that I have used just across the board, because I don't want to, I think for me, making the distinction can also create silos. And so I try to find ways to streamline processes and to make sure that the strategies can work for all writers. And so for me, I really just focus on research and evidence-based strategies, such as giving concrete feedback and modeling the way, not just only pointing out mistakes but also demonstrating alternatives, with scenario planning. And then also I also focus on organization training. I know some people will focus on outlining. Um, I think for me, before drafting, it's very important for me to ask some questions, such as, what are you trying to say? What are you trying, to whom, like, who is the audience that you're trying to target, and why are you writing this book? And then also, I've also used collaborative critique techniques, where I ask writers to pair themselves with other peer writers in their communities. And there are, again, in the United States, there are different writers groups. I mean, just across the world, they either online or if you have to go somewhere, it's I think it's important where when writers pair with each other and review each other's work, I think it builds critical thinking skills, but it also helps them build resilience, because the art of writing is something that takes time. And then also, I think finally, in that process, there's a lot of role playing within that peer to peer matching. Um, and also reading to each other, because sometimes, like, when you write something and you read it to yourself, you're not able to pick up on, the subtleties or any like minor errors. So having someone else read your passage or your text to you, I think it definitely helps. And so that's why, as a coach, I encourage reading widely. um, I know for me, like, my passion is in public health, and so I make sure that I'm always reading books outside of my niche, and encourage role playing interviews and borrowing techniques, from fiction books, to improve, nonfiction books. And actually, this is the reason why, this is what inspired me to build a business around writing coaching. um, because my inspiration came from, like, recognizing that, writing is both a skill and it's a deeply personal process. And as we've mentioned before, research shows that effective writing coaching is iterative and holistic. And so, whether you're a student, whether you're a professional, whether you are a business, typically studies have shown that people grow when they engage in cycles of feedback, revision, and reflection. But too often, what I've seen in writing coaching is that traditional instruction of writing, it focuses narrowly on mechanics, the mechanics of writing, or standardized assessments, leaving people without the tools to really write authentically. And on a personal level, Toni Morrison's Beloved, the book, really transformed me because her ability to channel history, trauma, and resilience onto the page, showed me that writing is not just about communication. It really is about survival. It's about reclaiming memory and grace. And so that's the reason why, like, I wanted to create a business that gives other people access to that kind of transformative writing journey.
Miss Venchel, how much of writing coaching is actually about addressing underlying issues like confidence, perfectionism, or fear of judgment?
Can you repeat the
Yes.
question?
Yes. How much of writing coaching is actually about addressing underlying issues like confidence, perfectionism, or fear of judgment?
Um, that's a very good question. I think I mentioned earlier, it's really helping people just let go of the myth that that they have in terms of writing consistently, because confidence grows not just from talent but really from structured support and feedback. And so writing coaching does, there is room and there's space um, to make sure that writers feel like each coaching sessions is helping them raise their self-awareness and really helping them internalize higher standards, which can directly improve their confidence. And that's the reason why I use positive psychology techniques, because I think that it emphasizes to writers that they've already done well. So that's the outcome. You essentially letting the person know they've already arrived. And I think that that technique increases self, efficacy, the belief that it fuels their drive, and it tells them that they can do this, which is one of the strongest predictors of consistent writing practice. And also, when we talk about that too, the reason why people lack confidence in their writing, typically it's because they have limiting beliefs, that they're not good enough, or that they need hours of inspiration before they can write. And coaching psychology shows that disputing these beliefs with evidence, helping them see that they've done these tasks before in the past, really helps them reduce anxiety and boost productivity. Because the problem, when it comes to writing, the problem is not skill. It's a question of having the right mindset. And once people experience small wins, like finishing a paragraph or sharing a story, just like I mentioned earlier in terms of that peer-to-peer matching, they start to rebuild their confidence.
Interesting indeed, Miss Vanchal. Delving into specific case studies and transformation, can you walk us through a specific case study where a writer made a dramatic transformation? What did the writing look and sound like the beginning, and what was the breakthrough moment?
Um, Trying to think of a case study. Hmm. So let's just say that one of the case studies that I can think of is that of a mid-career professional. Let's just call her Maya. And when she came to the writing coaching session, she had intense self doubt. So she had drafts, sitting untouched for years. And so her belief was, I'm not a real writer. I'll never finish. And this mindset is common, like I've said before. And so through the research that I have seen and that I have used and implemented on coaching psychology, these unhelpful beliefs, like this, can paralyze writers. Um, but again, like I remember for that particular scenario, I believe we used this model called the ABCDE framework. And ABCD stands for adversity, belief, consequence, disputation, and energization, to help challenge those beliefs. And I believe the intervention was, there was one on one coaching. I think just as newsroom case studies reveal, personalized feedback gave Maya the safe space to test her ideas and see progress. There was a lot of solution focused questioning. So instead of asking why she was blocked, I was asking, can you tell me about a time you wrote something that you were proud of? So you really using an appreciative inquiry lens to help her identify past successes and to give her the empowerment she needed to help her see that she's done this before. So really helping her build her confidence. And so this type of questioning really increased her confidence and motivation. And then we celebrated small wins, by setting a goal of 15 minutes of writing a day. And once again, going back to what we said earlier, short regular sessions dramatically increase output. So I would say within 6 months, because the project was just for her to start writing, like using those unfinished draft and create and writing a memoir. And so I would say when she first came in, Maya, we literally had to start with building. We had to build an outline, and I would say within 6 months, Maya completed her manuscript draft, which was, I believe, if I remember, about 50 pages long. Something she had not touched in 5 years. I mean, again, there's still some untouched draft that we were not able to get to, given the time, the time frame. And her confidence, skyrocketed. So she went from introducing herself to people as someone who's not a writer to presenting her work at a community event in her neighborhood, like in her neighborhood. And this definitely mirrors what I've shared before earlier, where having a writing coach is so important because it really helps you move, from being doubtful about you being able to write for yourself, to write from an audience, um, to really building the confidence that you need, to turn your narrative from I can't to I did that, right? Because the transformation is not just about talent. It really is about building confidence, structure, and support.
Well, good, 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 Miss Vangela, and looking forward for more success. So tell us, can you please give a piece of advice for those people out there who want to be an author?
I think the advice that I would give someone, struggling to or wanting to be a writer or just struggling to write consistently is really let go of the myth that you need big blocks of time. Really focusing on these short, regular sessions are very effective. Focus on small wins. It really by recalling past mastery, which would further increase, your self belief. And then remember that writing is not just mechanics. It's really about making meaning of, what you have on paper, and just approach it as a dialogue with yourself and your readers, because confidence in writing does not, how can I say this? Confidence in writing does not arrive fully formed. It grows each time a writer sees their words take shape, and writing coaching, or it provides the mirror that should reflect back your progress.
Thank you for that advice, Miss Vanshela. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
So there are several books because right now I am reading this text by Laura Van Der Lipsky called Trauma Stewardship: An Everyday Guide to Caring for Self While Caring for Others. And I think this book is very influential in terms of helping you use trauma informed techniques, whether you're in the writing, editing industry, but or in any other aspects of life. I'm still working through it, but as I've mentioned before, Beloved by Toni Morrison has been just a great book for me to have in my journey as a coach. Beloved taught me that writing can carry the weight of history and still offer hope. And Morrison's work is really a masterclass in showing to us that our stories, no matter how painful, are worthy of being told. And that insight has really shaped my mission, which is help others, businesses, clients, find grace on the page, to turn private reflections um, into public contributions that matter.
Well, Miss Vansella, thank you for that recommended book. So tell us, across all your case studies, what is the one piece of recommendation that almost every writer, regardless of their level or genre, needs to hear?
Um, I think just across the board, across the studies that I have read and have inspired my work, is that writing improvement, the common recommendation is that writing improvement is most effective when coaching combines structure with empowerment. Um, and so, again, it's really moving away beyond compliance based instruction and really helping writers connect with authentic audiences and purposes. I'm a firm believer that you need to continue to be yourself, continue to work on your craft, and and make and and be intentional in attracting the audience that's going to be aligned with the work that you're doing, instead of you trying to fit yourself into fit someone else's expectation, if you will, because then it creates less friction and the work is more enjoyable, in my opinion. Um, and then really just focusing on solution focused questions by helping writers envision success and recall prior mastery rather than staying stuck in a problem. um, I think that across all of the studies, it really emphasizes that effective coaching really empowers individuals to self-regulate and sustain growth rather than depending on external correction. So I think it's, if there's one thread that runs through all the research, is this: like, writing coaching works best when it's not about fixing mistakes, but about giving writers both structure and belief in their voice. The studies all say the same thing: confidence plus, I would say, consistency equals transformation.
Consistency for sure. And Ms. Van Schell, what are the top two strategies a writer can use to effectively coach themselves when professional coaching is not an option?
I think it would mean that they would need to find these spaces, these community spaces in their communities, even the in the library systems, asking for resources where they can find other people, where they can share and exchange ideas, and possibly if those resources are not available, they can create their own writing groups.
Definitely. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101, love letters in third season, and movie 101 review and music 101 in its fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Vancella, having analyzed these pathways to success, what trends do you see in the future of writing coaching, especially with the rise of AI writing tools?
I think it's just an opportunity for us um, to befriend AI and to see how it can be used as a virtual assistant, to propel, our businesses and use writing as a branding strategy. I think that AI is excellent in in giving us some recommendations, and I think that when it's used ethically and in a way that does not disrupt your own creativity, I think it would be extremely helpful for people to take a look at when this, I mean, in terms of scaling their business, um, especially for those of us who are in the writing, editing industry. And again, like I said, the research really points us that, toward integrating writing coaching into broader educational and professional systems. And I think in terms of my vision, is that we must recognize writing as essential, for leadership, scholarship, and equity. um, and investing in coaching is indeed investing in success. And so my vision is to see, writing coaching being normalized in schools, workplaces, and community spaces as a pathway to both personal growth and systemic change.
Systemic change indeed, Miss Venchele Saint Dic. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, your books, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
So I would say that if people want to learn more about my business and my mission, they can visit my website at www.pathwaycoachwriting.com. Listening to all the podcasts that have been a guest on their streaming platforms, and visiting my social media platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. I am here.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Venchelle Saint Dic, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering coaching to come, more and more empowering business to come. So, Miss Venchelle, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.